What the fuck? This fucking sucks. So we are recording this on the Friday after the election. And I've been doing the doom scrolling. I've been seeing everything. I've been seeing everyone's take. There are no fucking peaches, Trump voters listening to this. And if you are, come out of the fucking woodwork. Let's talk about it. Because if you're such an expert on economic policy, I will have you know, I did pretty bad in my economics classes at Harvard, which was technically my major. But I at least know basic shit that makes it very clear that Mr. Donald Peach Trump's economic policies, or the lack thereof, are going to be bad. People are choosing to be dumb. What I hate about this conversation about misinformation is, oh my God, we need to have some pity and sympathy for people who are just misinformed. You choose to be misinformed. You are able to go on fucking Google. You're able to go online and fact check some of the stuff that you're looking at, whether it's, oh my goodness, illegal aliens are our people and they're going to take all of our jobs. Wow, thanks to the guy who just gave me the thumbs up. I must be talking really fucking loudly. But yeah, like this is, I hope he's not giving me the thumbs up because he heard me say illegal aliens. Dear God. I can't believe that I am a part of the generation Gen Z that fucked this up for us. This is definitely showing me that we have a long way to go, Gen Z. We got blood on our fucking fingers, y'all. Okay, that's so dramatic. But it's the 20-somethings, the ASU white guy, bro culture loser singletons who are never gonna have a fucking significant other because they're fucking losers and they'll listen to anything just to confirm their stupid masculinity, and they will choose to be stupid because stupid's cool now. I was seen on TikTok in response like, all right, men, left-leaning men, liberal men, it's time for y'all to come out of the woodwork. It's time for y'all to have a podcast. And I was like, bitch, put me in, coach. Let me be the Joe Rogan of the queer girlies. Like, could you imagine? No, so true. We can be the start, have the cult uprising that we need. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll get to interview AOC herself and say, it's time for you to lead the coalition, bestie. If you're a straight guy who has a wolf cut and wears Doc Martens, this is for you. If you're a straight boy who's short, this is for you. Time for y'all to come out of the closet and pledge your allegiance to this faggot Asian bestie. I'm just gonna say it. Choose your fucking fighter. If you're feeling frustrated from this election, if you're feeling worried about the state of the world and you think that it feels like the world is burning into pieces, into detritus, if you will, this episode is for you. Because my goal for this one is to instill a little bit of hope, a little bit of insight, a little bit of hee-hee-hoo-hoo, a little bit of love. Because that's what we need right now. Except for all of you Trump voters. Y'all don't need love, y'all need therapy. And guess what? Y'all need to find a therapist who's actually gonna put up with your shit. Because God knows if and when I become a therapist and I go to school and that happens, there is no way in hell that I'm going to have any Trump voting clients. They can be reformed Trump voting clients, but it will not be because I was the one who helped them through that. Y'all got to work through your shit now and hopefully see that your views on economic policy are trash, and then we can talk. I am talking to genuinely one of my role models. This is one of my earliest interviews that I've gotten to do with someone who I genuinely admire for being a badass, someone who demonstrates excellence day in and day out, someone who really creates change in people's lives. And there's a lot of conversation now about what we got to do is get off our asses and join an organization and do something in mutual aid and help other people, help those who are most vulnerable in our local community. I've been wanting to bring in my teacher besties because I think that genuinely there is no profession. Do I think that? I think I can say like basically there's no profession that is as thankless, as selfless as being a teacher. And if our goal is to figure out how we can help rebuild humanity and help connect humanity and help educate people, I think it's low-hanging fruit that this episode happens now. MKUNDE MTENGA. She is a teacher. She is a veteran teacher. And I know we're taking a little bit of a right turn here. We had our artists. We had our comedians. We had our gay Asian pundits. But MKUNDE saved my life in this job when I was a teacher for a year, like a year and a half. She just has infinite wisdom. She's so smart. She's a character. She is one of the most effective teachers I've ever met. One of the most effective people I've met. She is a Capricorn. We have a 1 day difference. She's a Capricorn, tried and true. She gets shit done. And she honestly inspires people. She inspires her students. She inspired me. So I'm excited to hear some of her. She is officially 40, so she has a lot of wisdom to share. We filmed this in May, back when it was like the deep in the trenches before the school year was ending. Let me just give her a shout out that she went from in this Title I school, which is generally pretty under-resourced, and most students are from low income and they're first gen. She went from having about maybe 4-ish people pass the A-Push exam to 24 last year. That's unheard of at this school. So she's a baller. She's Educator of the Year. And so that's just another thing that I want to give her a shout out for. Tell me how you're doing today. Let's just start off from there.
You know, the year, we're almost into the 10th month of the school year?
Yeah, we're at the end of May for all of those who are wondering.
And this is a time of year where it's just like a drag. Mm-hmm. And you just got to find a way to get up every morning and get to work because that's your job. Mm-hmm. It might not be the most exciting time of year, but we made it this far, so why not keep going?
Great. And can you paint me a picture then of what is your position? What do you teach? And why May right now is whoosh.
I mean, it's we've been in school for a long time, even though it feels like a blink of an eye. But I teach U.S. history at school B.
B school?
B school. And I teach AP U.S. history as well to a group of 11th graders, so 16, 17-year-olds, mm-hmm. who really don't want to learn history, but have to, because the state of California says so. And so I like to think of my job as I'm a used Carl.
I haven't heard this one.
I'm a used Carl salesman.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me to say that. But
we'll cut it. We'll edit it out or not.
But basically, I'm going to sell you a product that you might not necessarily want, but you definitely need. And so I'm going to get you to love this subject, even though you might think that this is a very boring subject. Because history gets a bad rap, I have to remember dates and facts. And it's not necessarily. You just have to remember key themes and ideas and peoples. And I like to tell it like a story. I like to tell the kids, if a movie isn't playing in your head when you're thinking about history, then you're not really thinking about it the way you ought to be thinking about it.
Okay, you just opened up the whole can of worms. Let me just say, y'all, that being a teacher, everyone thinks it's so hard, and guess what? It is. I am convinced that I will maybe never have a job that is as hard as teaching was, at least in that specific way. Your product, your results are children. You're not making a slide deck to present and, boosting profits. You're trying to literally change people's minds, and so much of that is so not in your control because guess what? They have to want to be there. Everything that they say is true. The pay is bad. It's not good enough. You're working overtime. You really, really have to care about doing it. But the flip side of it is that the payoff is so, so worth it. The more you put yourself into it, the more you can get out of it. And unfortunately, I wasn't totally in a place where I was willing to sacrifice all of that and put my full self into it. But it's because I have other interests and I didn't see it as my long-term career. But the highs are so high and the lows are so low. Because I don't think that we're going to be able to include any footage. I don't know if she got any. Guys, when you walk into the classroom, it's you walk in one by one by one. It is dead silent in there. And guys, students are not dead silent in any other classroom than this one. Dead silence. She's good morning, class. And they're all like, good morning, Ms. Matenga. Very cult-like. I was drawn in. My heart was racing. And then she was like, what is our word or value of the day? And they're all like, conscientiousness. You were Educator of the Year last year. Snaps from our audience. And it's just like nothing else that I've ever seen. Certainly not in my classroom. And even when I was in high school, the amount of buy-in that you get from the students and people who behave who I've never seen behave in any other setting. Like, can you tell me how that style kind of developed? And also, I know you're a little bit of an actor in the classroom. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that style developed because I just don't like to waste time. I think my first teaching job was at a school in Brooklyn, New York, for another charter network. And
Mhm.
they really I remember the CEO being like, your classroom is like Vegas. Everything has to be purposeful and intentional. And the goal in Vegas is to get people to spend their money. And the goal in your classroom is to get kids to learn. And so everything you have to do is to get them there. And there's no time to waste, not a single moment. Even passing out papers has to be done in the most efficient way possible. And I really think that that resonated with me because I have like fascist inclinations where the trains have to run on time, you know?
Yeah.
Like when we are in our classroom and we have 64 minutes, if we are losing 4 minutes a day, you've lost, I don't know how to do math, but you've lost a lot of time.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I just feel like that's why I think I am the way I am, is because I know that we are there. This is a high stakes situation that we're
Yeah, I
in.
was gonna say,
We're
like, the
teaching
stakes feel very
Yeah,
high.
we're teaching students, fundamentally, we're teaching students that might not be at grade level or a little bit below. And therefore, every moment they're with you, you got to maximize and you got to make sure you're doing your job by teaching them what they need to be taught and getting them to practice the skills that they might not otherwise be practicing. And so in my classroom, I have to run a tight ship for that reason, because ultimately I care about you. And that's not to say that there isn't like a rationale, or I'm not trying to do it in like, I'm not going to be like so mean about it, but it's just like we are serious people with serious things to do. When I used to teach middle school, I would make a game out of it. Like, the faster you can get ready for class, you earn a letter in the word conscientious. And then we get to spell that entire word, which is 11 letters, and it might take 6 weeks. We'll have a party.
Yes.
And in high school, we don't have parties. We just celebrate the fact that we did what we had to do.
Yeah, and that way they passed the class.
yeah.
Or didn't pass the class, and this is like the fourth time that they're in your class, which is also cool.
Yeah, that's also fun.
So spell out, like, not physically, like literally spell out conscientiousness unless you want to, but like that is your core value. And can you tell me the story of conscientiousness?
I heard that word and I liked it. And then I looked it up and I thought, wow, I love what it means. And then
What does it mean?
Someone who is detailed oriented, somebody that's careful, somebody that pays attention to the details. And I always like to say it's not just in the classroom, it's with all things in your life. Like, I like to use example, who here brushed their teeth this morning? You didn't? That's not conscientious. So like
Classic.
like they say the first thing to do to have a successful day is to make your bed. Little things in life to like set yourself up for success. That's what I'm doing, because it ultimately, like, I'm teaching you history and teaching you how to read, but I'm also teaching you how to be somebody that's like gonna go into the real world, and maybe your mom and dad aren't around anymore and you remember to pay all your bills so the lights don't get shut off. Just little things in life that like allow you to be a successful person, I think, are little tiny things that sometimes get overlooked.
Yeah, and like kind of those small steps every single day over the long term.
Over the long term.
MKUNDE's kind of been like my mother, my mom, my teacher, mom, and bestie. And it's a hard job, especially being in your first year. And one of my favorite pieces of advice that you've given me is to think about the long game, which is that like, it kind of feels like as a high school teacher, when so many things are stacked against you, not that you necessarily need to choose between being liked or being a good teacher, but sometimes that does feel a little dichotomous. And sometimes it feels a little bit like, for me, it's hard to stomach like the idea of a lot of people, anyone in a room not liking me. And
well, I mean, it's interesting you say that, because maybe because I'm getting older, but sometimes I do care if they like me or not. And, at B school, we have advisories that we basically we follow them from 9th grade to 12th grade, and that's the one set of students that you actually get to know in a more fundamental level than the kids to just stay with you like,
1 year.
10 months at a time. It's really hard to remember those kids sometimes. Like I'm notorious for as soon as the last day hits, I forget you. It's not that I want to. It's just that as a teacher, this. There's 100 things that we have to cram into our brain, like more than 100 things. And sometimes it's just, I think I know the kids in a situational way. Like that person sat in that corner and that's why I remember your name. Unless you do something so memorable that I'm going to remember you.
Yeah.
But I have an advisory, and over Christmas time, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I think I'm starting to worry that I want them to like me, which was concerning to me because then I started doing little things like letting, oh, you're late. That's okay.
Which you don't do, Jen.
No, yeah.
Like, you're the teacher.
Like, here are the
There's
rules.
a bell ringing 1 minute late. You're the one who's putting it in all bold in the G chat.
Where is his
And
kid?
I love you for it. Yeah.
But ultimately, we're not there to be friends. Like in the sense of like, I'm here to be another adult that models for you what you need to do to be successful in life. And if we find a way, we respect each other. I'm a big believer in mutual respect. Like a student will not learn from you if they don't respect you. And if I don't respect you as a student, then I might not do my best for you. So I try to cultivate that. But as far as like friendship, being liked, those are things for your actual friends. And what you want the student to look back on, because as teachers, you don't know what your impact is until well after the situation has passed. And maybe one day somebody reflects on, in this class with this person, this happened, and I'm thankful for that. But you're not going to be there to know that. If you're lucky, they'll tell you. But otherwise, you just try to figure out what your compass is for what you do as a teacher. And for me, it's I just want to be a person that's conscientious. And I'm not looking for perfection, because I think one of the things about being conscientious is knowing that you're going to fall short and then asking yourself, how are you going to pick yourself up again? And even as an adult who's been on this earth 40 years, I struggle with that. Like how do you pick yourself up when you've made a mistake, or how do you keep going with the discipline that you need to meet your goals? And how do you just, in this day and age with the way the world is and how sad it is, how do you keep going? And I think that's sometimes I think my focus is like, well, let's just focus on the things we can control. And it's the little things that you can control and the little things that you can pay attention to. Like, did you write down that you have homework this evening? Did you actually look at your planner? Like just tiny things that you can control can make your life just a little bit better. I don't know how to solve the big problems in this world. I feel overwhelmed by them. But if I can help you in just a little way to get your own personal life organized, then I've done my job.
Wow. Okay. I feel like that's hearing you say it that way is like very powerful. Well, you're a very powerful person.
Well, thank you.
No so true moment. This I actually think about a lot. This one belief is sometimes the only thing that I can hold on to when I'm just feeling like shit about my own personal life or about the world, is like focus on the things that you can control. Because obviously, it's going to sound so simple, you can't control what you can't control. And the sooner I was able to really embrace that in this job and in my life, the easier life was, I feel like. Because you can direct your efforts and your attention to things that are productive and things that are rooted in reality. Doing those things that are in control to make you feel like you have some control in your life, I think that is inherently linked to optimism. Like, there is no choice but to be optimistic. Like, I'm just trying to embrace optimism to some capacity in the sense, to the extent that it is action oriented, because it's like we cannot afford to not be optimistic. At the end of the day,
it is what it is.
It is what it is, after all.
And that's the T.
That's the T. But for me, it's about me. And for you, that's not the case.
at the end of the day, the only things that you can do to change your inner and outer circle are the things that are in your control. And there's a lot that's in our control. So you talked about being 40, and I just want, like, first of all, what is 40 looking like for you? And how is the job, how has your relationship with your job changed or not changed as you've gone from 20s to 30s to 40s? Because you've done this for how long?
This is my 14th year. So I think I started teaching when I was 26, 27, something like that.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All of my 30s were teaching.
Yeah, but different places.
Different places.
Okay.
Different
Yeah.
places. I mean, being 40 is waking up every day with something hurting, and not knowing how you got there,
Yeah.
and just praying to God that it will go away on its own.
Yeah.
And
Are
then
we talking about the knee, not to expose you?
my shin problem,
She's got shin problems. She's got
acid
knee.
reflux, heart palpitations. You name it lately. I'm just struggling.
Yeah.
Um,
But you got that Kaiser Permanente subscription HMO plan. Thank
Yeah.
you, Teachy.
the $30 copay. My mom told her
$15 parking.
Yes, they like to scam you.
Yeah.
But, thank God we have health care.
Mm-hmm.
Knock on wood.
R.I.P. Am I right? That's the insert.
But no, yeah, that's what being 40 is like. It's just an adjustment, and, that's a whole nother can of worms.
Mm-hmm. What would you say is one way that you feel that you've changed for the better since you were in your 20s? Something you've learned.
Oh, for the
along
better,
way.
because I was like,
Or
I'm
for the
more
worse,
cynical.
Yeah, more cynical is good too.
I mean, and that's really important to recognize that I'm more cynical so that I don't put that on the children, because they still have a lot of hope. The whole world is in front of them. And
Really?
not to say that.
Do they?
Yeah, because they're still at the age where they think that they can change the whole world. Which I don't,
Funny.
it might happen, but I'm very pessimistic about that. I'm like, when's this next civil war going to be? And who's fighting on whose side? I hope we're on the right side. But because I like to talk about that when I talk about the Civil War, I'm like, well, it took over 30 years. It took 50 years for the Civil War to happen in America. What do you think is happening right now? A slow percolation to the next one. We just don't know where it's going to happen. But that's not something you tell the children all the time. You just say, look out for the signs.
But even bringing it into the everyday, that's something that not a lot of history teachers can do or that are capable of.
Well, thank God we live in California then.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we lived in Florida, where I am from, I would have already lost my job.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you couldn't even be
Yeah.
talking to a gay person right now.
Oh, we would be separated.
Yeah. And honestly, so the person who I replaced told me one day that you were like the ultimate fag hag, which I just think is like really important. Like,
Which is something I
would you
didn't know
agree?
about myself.
Right.
Yeah, that's
And
something that was revealed to me by somebody in the community.
Because you have so many friends who are in the community. Moving on. Yeah, again, just to emphasize, like, the reason why I wanted to do this episode now is I just feel like the only hope we have is in forms of education. Like, the only way that we're going to be able to preserve our democracy is by relying on the people like MKUNDE who are doing the things that need to be done for people to be able to question things, for people to be able to look at history and to know what is right and wrong and to make those decisions for themselves. But they can't do that if they don't have the information that's presented to them. And so I'm scared about the future of education in America. From a public standpoint, I feel so lucky to not be in K through 12 during all of this bullshit. And they're saying that they're going to get rid of the Department of Education. And I know I'm ignorant in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of information that I don't have, but at least I can say that I'm not going to be a political pawn, because that's shit. I'm scared, y'all. I'm scared that these political pawns are going to be out here and there's going to be some kind of revolution, okay? When you have enough stupid, misinformed people who idolize a fucking dictator, that's how some of the worst things in our world have started. The actual content itself, how do you make it relevant? Like, APUSH is for me, I remember when I was around people taking APUSH, I did not take the class. I wish I took the class, but those fuckers were so annoying. They were the most annoying students.
That's a hard class by itself, you know?
Yeah, you teach the proudest AP class.
Yeah. And I don't even know if I'm doing that good of a job, to be honest. I mean, like, I'm not trying to be humble bragging or anything. It's just, I know I could be doing a better job. Like, it's so funny, but this just came up like an hour ago with the English teacher who teaches 11th grade. Yeah. So she's my counterpart. And basically the question is like, why haven't I been able to get through more history that's more relevant, basically 20th century history? I haven't even made it to Vietnam War.
I noticed that. Because I was kind of like, wait, I'm supposed to tell them about the Vietnam War now. I'm supposed to tell them about Watergate. I did so much YouTube, Google.
I know. It's just, I need to find a way to get to the more recent 100 years of history than the first half of 100. You know, like I get through the founding of America, the Civil War, the rebirth with the Reconstruction era, and then basically school ends. And the English teacher was basically saying, well, like they're walking away without a lot of these like fundamental concepts that were, you know, kind of explain what happens, what's the backlash we're receiving now, right? Like, in order to understand the 1980s, you have to understand the 1960s and 70s. In order to understand, like, even now with the Tea Party era and the Trump era, you have to understand Obama and how that's all a backlash to that. And how I haven't been able to get to that part of history. And it's disappointing to me. And it's something that I grapple with because, you know, at our school, B School, not only am I supposed to teach history, I'm also supposed to teach them how to read.
Yeah, you have the weight of the world on your shoulders.
Like we all have like specific skills that we have to teach. And they have these big tests that we have to get them ready for because we talk about them so much. And it's like you teach economics, trade-offs. And am I making the right decisions to get the right trade-off? And, you know, I don't know. Was it because I went to school such a long time ago and there was just less history? Like, how did I get
the Obama lesson wasn't in the curriculum?
Well, it wasn't yet 2008.
What is a lesson that you're kind of like, I'm so ready to teach this. I look forward to this every year.
I really like talking about the Constitutional Convention a lot. I actually like talking about because I think it really sets them up for government the next year. And understanding civics is how did we come to this place where, one, we were fighting against England and saying that we were being tyrannized. Because then one of the questions we ask is how revolutionary was the American Revolution? Because, you know, we're all fighting for our rights, but then who's getting to benefit from that? Just another group of white men. They just happen to be American and not English. But then ultimately those ideas that were given in the Declaration are the same ideas that different groups over time have used to fight for their rights, right? And so that's what I like about that document is that even though when it was first conceived, it was a very narrow definition of who all men were that were created equal and deserved these unalienable rights, over time we've expanded that definition. And even though we have these laws on the books, these laws in the books are there to correct for problems that we have in America, right? The law is a tool. And so we have things in the Reconstruction period, we have the 14th Amendment, for example, which is like
such a good amendment. I didn't know it before taking this job. I'm not going to lie.
And you talk about it a lot in government, right? Because it's one of
selective incorporation.
Right. Tell me what that is.
Oh, God. Selective incorporation. So I do this fun thing that makes all the students cringe. But before they were taking the test, I had, to make them remember, I would do, which is like you're selectively you're taking. And the point of that.
I love movement.
Yes.
This visceral.
None of them remembered it, I'm pretty sure. But the 14th Amendment, essentially, it's like a catch-all amendment. But the idea is that it applies the Bill of Rights or select Bill of Rights, which is the first 10 amendments, to the states.
Yes.
So, for example, what would be an example of a Supreme Court case that went to Brown versus Board of Education? 14th Amendment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
we talk about it in the context of what do we do with the newly freed people, right? 4 million of them. Well, they're not designated as property, so let's consider them to be citizens because they were born on this land. And then let's ensure that the law is colorblind because you want to counteract for the laws that the southern states were making to basically reinstitute slavery by another name through things like the Black Codes. And so we have this idea that the law should be colorblind. And then that's the idea, right? And that's what's so beautiful about America is that that's a beautiful idea to say that all of us should be treated the same, regardless of what our race is. But then when it is applied, it is applied in a way that's not equal. And it's applied because of the people who get to interpret the law is what it comes down to. And then it takes a while before other people come along and say, wait a minute, this does not jive with what the Constitution is saying, so let's strike down that law as unconstitutional. And so I spend a lot of time there because I hope to set them up for government.
Yeah,
next
they know
year.
all of that stuff
Yeah.
when they come into the classroom.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have any takeaways? Like, not to I know we had like explored the idea of doing like a 10-minute history of America. I'm not going to make you do that. But like, what are some of the takeaways from this curriculum that you feel like are like so strongly applicable to the history of the making right now, where we are?
Oh, I don't know. That's a really big question. I mean, history just tells us where we've been and trying to be in a place where we're not repeating the same mistakes, but we keep repeating them. So my job as a teacher of history is not to tell kids what the answers are, but rather get them to see these patterns that keep emerging and then try to make sense of what it means for themselves. But then highlight like there's so many different groups that we'll talk about, Native Americans, Mexican Americans, African Americans, and like that's the minority group within this larger story of like a white majority or white history essentially, and where it all ties in so that they feel that the history is relevant. But it's been hard because the pandemic kind of slowed things down and I haven't found a way to like catch up. Like I teach history at a much slower rate than I used to. I used to teach a unit in like 2 weeks, but now it's usually like a month. Most of the time because I think this class, they were an online school for U.S. history the last time they took it. Therefore, they have these major gaps. And how can you continue teaching something that somebody doesn't really remember or was ever taught without you ensuring that you taught it yourself?
MKUNDE has the best story that I've ever heard in this school, where she was teaching a student who I had the next year, God bless you, who at the end of the year sent an email and was like, oh my God, this was so interesting. They're talking about Abraham Lincoln. This was so crazy. I had no idea that he was going to get shot at the end. I really thought that he was going to survive and save America. Plot twist. That was the first time she had learned that Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. In this very challenging job that seems to have gotten like more challenging in a lot of ways, what is the thing that consistently like drives you? Like what allows you to show up still and to still put your best foot forward? Because you do put a lot of pressure on yourself to execute.
Well, that's because I don't want to be seen as somebody that isn't doing their job. I think that's like a lot of my own insecurities of just like, you hired me to do this job and I don't want to let you down. And also like, I feel like as an African-American woman that I have to put my best foot forward because I'm here representing a group, because there aren't very many African-American women who teach at our school. And we teach at a school that has mostly, like 90% Latino students. And I don't know how many African-American people they come across. So I feel like I have a responsibility to be a very professional, somebody that executes version of myself, that version of myself. Honestly, I wish I was that version of myself in all parts of my life.
Kind of like proving yourself almost.
Yeah, it's like I wake up and I'm like, I'm gonna be excellent, and this is I'm gonna show that I am excellent, and therefore I can demand that excellence from my students because I'm modeling it. For them.
So did that develop throughout your teaching career, or was it just from like day one?
No, it developed. I met. I think it was my second or third year of teaching. I think maybe my second. I met a woman. She was my co-teacher, and I used to teach math, and I was teaching 6th grade math at the time, and we were co-teachers. And she was the most efficient individual I've ever met in my life. Like, you gave her something to do, she did it before you were done talking.
Damn.
Like,
can't relate.
It was just efficiency at its peak. And when you work alongside somebody like that, you can't be the one that's bringing the group down. I never want to be the one that brings the side down. Like, I'm gonna do my part. And we were so successful our first year co-teaching that 100% of our 6th graders passed the New York State math exam.
Wow.
Like, it was that level of like insanity. I think like you were pulling, it was tag teaming with, you know, small group interventions.
Hey.
Yeah. Like knowing exactly, like looking at the data, knowing exactly who needed help and what kind of help and in what ways you're going to help them and who was staying after school and who wasn't. And it was just the most specific targeting of how to reach kids in different types of kids that I ever experienced. And it was that level of like rigor and success that drives me. Yeah. I mean, you can't hit that every year. You will burn out. But at least I know like this is what top tier teaching looks like.
And is that what you strive for in this job? Is that the thing that's kind of like what makes it feel worth it?
I think so. I think being excellent makes it worth it. I think also I get excited, you know, teaching, there's a lot of moving pieces, but ultimately, fundamentally, what gets me up is like my content area. Like, how can I find a new way of teaching you something that you didn't know about or you might not be so excited about? How do I get it so that it's like, because I hate, like, for example, I hate lecturing. I never lecture. Like, who cares about what I know? That's not the point. The point is you need to know something. So I try to find interesting ways for you to acquire the knowledge yourself and then you to like work in small groups and big groups to process the knowledge. Like, I need you to do more talking than I'm doing the talking. I'm just there as a guide, a facilitator who knows the end, but it's not about me. And I'm not really the guy. I'm not the center of this universe. The students are the center. And like, that's what, if I think about it from that point of view, teaching isn't a bad gig at all. But if you think about it from all these other points of view of like, you have to show up 180 days and your job doesn't give you time in the day to do your job. And like a lot of kids just are never going to really like you as far as the content. That's when I say that at that point you have to find the actor within yourself and you are acting. It's a low paid acting gig is what I like to say.
Absolutely.
Because you're performing at that point. You might not even be, you, the person might not even want to be there. A long time ago, I used to make it obvious that I didn't want to be there because I'd wear sunglasses inside. And that's when they knew I didn't want to be there. Nowadays, I don't do that because I'm mature. But like, it'd be like, oh, she has sunglasses on. Don't talk to her.
Do you feel you'll, I mean, not to like give it away to all the students who are listening, but
from B school.
Do you think you'll keep doing this?
I think I have 6 good years left.
What? Why 6?
Because in 6 years, it'll be 20 years.
Wow.
Me. And I think that's all I have. I think I look around and what's becoming of how children are with these. Like when we were at the Dodger game the other day, and there's this group of students that were sitting in front of us, and I could tell they were small because they had small fingers.
But big faces and bodies?
Yeah, they just looked...
They're fat asses with just tiny little fingers?
You would their hands and maybe go, that's like a baby.
Got it.
You know? But they had phones. And you're just like, what are you doing with a smartphone? And then I was listening to some guy talk about how this generation of students, like basically from 2015 onwards, like as our phones have gotten more sophisticated and as students have gotten these phones earlier, it's led to all these problems of depression, of anxiety, of just things that, you know, if we didn't give them these tools, maybe they'd be a little bit better off. But I don't see that going away. Like we are literally fighting an uphill battle right now with phones. Phones are our biggest competitors.
Wow.
And it's just, and even I'm guilty of this. Sometimes I go home and I'm scrolling on my phone and an hour just went away. And it's like, what did I do? Nothing. I was just scrolling. Sometimes people send me videos that are like 10 seconds long and I can only watch 5 seconds. Because I have extreme, this ADHD. And I'm like, and my brain is developed. So it's like, these children's brains are not. And I don't know how to combat that problem. And I don't know if I have the patience for that, for solving that problem. Because how can I compete with something that seems more glamorous than teaching them how to read and write and do math and do history? Like, how can we compete?
It feels really,
you know?
It feels sometimes meaningless.
It feels kind of meaningless. And I think that that's why I have to find a plan B. Because I'm not sure I can be a classroom teacher and, you know, 6 years from now, I'll be, 45, 46? I don't know if I can take it into my 50s because I think one of the reasons, like, I used to joke around, like, I don't really know what it means to get old because I always feel young, especially because I don't have kids or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that feeling old is that you realize that you've seen everything already because everything just keeps repeating in just a different form.
Do you feel that now that you've kind of hit that
Sometimes
stride?
I feel like I've seen things already. It's like, oh wait, this is just the same as what happened 10 years ago. But I don't know how to explain it, but it just feels like it's a repetition of something that already happened. It's not really new. It's just new to whoever's experienced it for the first time.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't really feel that way is like about music. I always find music to be like, oh, this is good. This is different. This is a new beat. It might be similar. Of course, we're always sampling and shit, but like music doesn't make me feel that way. But I digress. The point I'm trying to making
the best music manager.
I
Or
wish I
like
could
the
find
head
a
of
new career.
Yeah. I've told you this
You've
multiple
said this,
times
I
where
know.
I
You said
feel
that.
like everything that you've done and every year that you've taught and everything that you've learned along the way will equip you to like move mountains no matter what it is after.
And that's the most optimistic thing you've said, because I don't see that. I don't see the way out right now. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't be a classroom teacher for long because there's so many things that just weigh on you. And when you've been doing it longer than the people who are telling you what to do, I mean, that's when you get in trouble. Because then you have to find a way of not saying how you feel without getting into trouble. I told you this story once. I got fired from a job once for telling somebody how I really felt.
Which was what?
That you are coddling these students because you are letting them get away with things they ought not to get away with. Plus, that go against the very thing we said it goes against our mission.
Yeah, it's the antithesis of conscientiousness. That's for sure.
Exactly. And it was kind of, low-key white savior BS. And
what was it?
well, because it was like a white woman telling me this about Latino students in the San Fernando Valley. And I lost my job on the last day of school. And I was really devastated because I felt like I had met all the things I needed to do as a teacher, but because I made my true opinion known, I didn't get to return the next year. And then it was one of those things that made me realize that, like, we can all say we're in it for the kids, but sometimes that's not really the reason why we're in it sometimes. And it really just makes me wary about how honest you can truly be if you're truly trying to solve a problem. Like, people might be more interested in the metrics or the optics rather than really fundamentally, is this the right thing to do for these children?
Yeah.
And
like the authenticity behind teaching in the classroom.
And it's getting harder what's the right thing it is to do for the children. Like, we don't know how to grapple with this technology in our classrooms. We don't know what the right solution is other than like, take the phones, hide them. You know what company is doing?
Show me your ears. Show me your AirPods.
There's this one girl. Show me your ears, because she does this thing where she hides them. No, but there's this one. The company. When people go to like shows and they have those little pockets and they put their phones in like the little.
Yeah.
That company is doing very well. They said they're getting a lot of requests from schools.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have an idea? Well, I think I know the answer, but like, do you daydream about what else it would be? Or conversely, when you were kind of choosing teaching, like, did you have an alternate path or were you juggling between different things?
Well, I was an economist at one time.
Yeah.
That was so random. I can't even believe I like did that. It's like I can barely add.
What was you were going to go down the PhD route?
No, that's what my mom and my dad wish I had done. But no, I had this economics degree, a master's in economics, and I was working in Arlington, Virginia / DC, if anybody asks. And doing this job that sounded exciting, running cost benefit analysis models for a subcontractor for the EPA.
You said that sounds exciting?
It sounded exciting to people in DC.
True, that's facts. No, that's true.
Because at a party, they go, "What do you do?" And you're like telling them the glamorous story. You basically say, "I live in DC and I work for the EPA," even though it's all like, somehow not really. And then that turned into be like, it wasn't exciting for me, and I didn't feel like I could keep up, and I felt like everybody around me was smarter than me, and I was like, what else could I do? And that's when I discovered Teach for America, and then I applied, I joined, I got in, and I luckily got New York City, and low-key I was kind of chasing a guy that lived there.
Yes.
And the fact that they gave me New York City meant I was gonna do Teach for America. So, you know, getting into teaching wasn't because I love the kids. It was because I wanted another job.
That's very real.
Yeah.
I think that I feel like the majority of teachers who I know, not necessarily in this school, like, it's not necessarily about the kids.
Yeah.
It's about a lot of other things. Just like how teaching is a lot about a lot of other
Yeah.
things other than teaching. Another no so true moment, another favorite moment of this, being 26 and growing older, something that's been so helpful is embracing accidents. Like, I feel like when you go to college and there's so much pressure to know exactly what you want and who you are, because you feel like that certainty will help you in achieving, having that pressure is so real. But something that has been so freeing is embracing accidents and seeing them. I guess this is a case for doing what's in your control and also being open to what is not. Because I kind of love that MKUNDE was straight up and being like, it wasn't for the fucking kids. It was because I wanted a job. And not only that, I needed to move and I was chasing a boy. I think there's almost shame about doing things or making life decisions that are not 100% in your control, or because it's in response to, oh, I wanted to move back to family, or I, like didn't have a choice. Like, I feel like there's shame behind doing things that weren't 100% our choice. And I just want to say those are some of the best decisions. Me choosing teaching, me being a teacher was not 100%. I mean, I committed to it, but I also got lucky. It fell into my lap. I'm in my embracing accidents era, y'all. Oopsie daisy. Accidents, please. Drop the glass.
I'm just surprised I've been in teaching this long.
Me too.
I thought I'd be at the game year 5, year 6.
Your students think that you should be a senator or the president. They literally think you're going to run for president.
I have too many skeletons in my closet.
Too many El Segundo.
Oh, El Segundo to Burbank. Don't do that.
Do you want to tell us your perspective on that? Can you tell us the story behind that infamous saying that you have?
Oh, yeah. I was just dating my ex. I lived in Burbank. He lived in El Segundo. We were both teachers.
Oh.
Yeah. And then he was cheating on me with people at his school. And that's what I said to you. You know what happens when you live in Burbank and they live in El Segundo?
Infidelity. And then you also mentioned Teach for America, which you said this quote that I just could, like, it was the most epic thing I've ever heard. It was like we were in the professional development in like the Santa Barbara, whatever, and we just got into an academic conversation, and you were like, yeah, it's just like I learned to Teach for America about, do you want to finish the sentence?
Yes, that you, and everything you do is in teaching, doesn't matter how great you are, you have to be consistent, because consistency is like pregnancy. You either are or you're not.
I like died when I heard that. The room was like, whoa.
Sometimes I forget that I said that. I have this
I will
tendency
never
of
forget
saying
this.
things and totally blacking out that I said them, and I'm totally sober. I just don't remember.
Yeah, you're just 40.
This part of my brain is like closing.
And then in that exact same room, you said my favorite thing that you said, which is that you we were talking about whether it's justified to, like, language in the classroom, because a lot of people who should not be saying specific racial slurs are saying racial slurs. And then we were talking about the F word.
The F word.
Yeah. And then you said,
That's my favorite word. I love using it. And it turned out I was talking about fuck.
which sounds so good coming out of your mouth.
And not the other F word that's actually a slur.
Which is what?
Well, I don't know if I can say it.
Okay, yeah, don't say it. But you are a hag of it, but in a positive way.
In a positive, everything is about positivity. But yeah, I mean, and then
Because I was like, damn,
I wasn't cognizant of the fact that I wasn't reading the room and that I was referring to the wrong F word. So everybody was just looking at me like, Jesus Christ.
That would have been the ultimate like turn of the century, is that you would be like a massive homophobe.
Yeah, and then I wouldn't be here right now. Like,
you might be here right now.
hello HR.
Yeah, true. Yeah. And then do you have any other quotes in your back pocket besides the other one that's your go-to one, which was famously on your birthday invitation?
Oh, well, I got it from the movie. First of all, I got it from the movie Steel Magnolias. The one
I've
with
never seen
Julia Roberts and Sally Fields and a bunch of other people. It's a really sad movie. It's set in the South. And one of them says, the only thing that separates us from the animals is our ability to accessorize. And
So what does that mean to
right.
you? Yeah.
That whenever you got to look good, you got to look good. I really believe in like, if you look good, you feel good. And that, it's something I like. I love getting dressed up. I love having a party. I love any reason to wear accessories, put on makeup, get my makeup professionally done.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever at school, the one thing I'm always complimenting people on is if they look good,
Wow, I never caught that.
Mm-hmm. Like whether it's
Maybe it's
your
because
shirt.
she's never complimented me.
I say
No, she does. You do. You're yeah.
Because I think that's the one thing that I just noticed that about people. And it's always tiny small. Like, I don't know. I always notice that about my advisory. That's why I like getting them into my room one by one, because I'm always looking at them first before they enter.
Wow.
And then we start the day. It's just one little way to show that you are paying attention to them. Because
Absolutely.
we know we're teachers, but what we are is also just people who observe other people all day and then figure out what our observations mean.
Are there any other observations beyond what we've discussed that you feel like you're like, whoa?
I mean, no, I think that this was a really good conversation to have. I've been feeling really down lately, not very happy with a lot of things, thinking, is this it? And it's really good to sometimes take a step back and talk about things and see how people perceive you, that it's more positive than you think, because I've been really down on myself and not thinking that I'm doing the right thing or I'm in the right place in my life. And so the fact that you have invited me on this platform and have asked me
Not platform.
Is it a platform?
10 people, maybe?
It's something. You
Small
must start
platform.
somewhere.
Yes,
But though, even all of the questions that you came up with, Eric, were so thoughtful and so demonstrating wait, when you talk, people do listen and people are hearing you. And it's don't give up. Because sometimes I feel like if I gave up, the only person that would miss me would be my mom.
Whoa.
Yeah.
We can't I couldn't do this without you.
Yeah.
And I feel like I just feel like I'm cheering for you no matter what, even though I'm technically, I'm not gonna be seeing you as often, but I feel like I talk about it with Trevor, who is the person I replace, about just I just want to see you do so many things and win, because you deserve so much.
Yeah.
You know?
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I hope I see you doing so many great things. And I love that you're able to do something like this so exciting, that you're committed to it. And, we'll still see each other. It's LA.
She's amazing. Isn't she amazing? And also, thank you, MKUNDE, for coming on and talking. And you're worth listening to. Sometimes we really just want to be listened to. It's like that one. I hope I haven't dropped this. I guess we're in enough episodes for me to be wait, am I starting to repeat myself? What we want the most is not love. What we want the most is to be understood. Who said that? It is in relationship with others that we learn how the human mind works. Okay, my quote was better. Just saying. Didn't do the research, not a psychologist, but I had the words, didn't I? Maybe the last thing is, what are you most proud of? It could be in this field or it could not be in this field.
What am I most proud of? Being alive. No, I think making it on my own as long as I have, I haven't had to rely on my parents for a long time, or anybody really for that matter. And the fact that I can just year in, year out, just get up, do the things I need to do to survive, and also be a productive member of society, and in my own little small way in this tiny corner of LA, help kids make their way through life. I'm pretty proud of that.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
I love you,
Yeah.
MKUNDE.
You too.
I'm so excited to see you continue to become and thrive and just do really important and meaningful, conscientious work.
Likewise.
Because I know you are making an incredibly significant impact on those people, even if it doesn't necessarily look like that on the day-to-day, because that's something that I feel bogs me down. But I know for certain that you are that memorable teacher that they look back on, and it's that person changed my life.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome. Snaps. And thank you to our live studio audience.
Our history teacher, she did not like play. She held us to.
Oh, yes.
And I feel like that's what made me really like focus in class, because one, I was intimidated by her, but two, like I wanted to do well in her class. Like I didn't want her to see me like as like she needed to push me hard. Yeah.
Do you feel like that was where you felt growth?
Yes, definitely. Like what Haley said, like I was so scared of her. Like, oh my god. I remember whenever she's like, oh, I like your hair today. I was like, oh my god, she likes me.
First compliment.
I know. I was like, thank you. I focused so much, like no matter how much that class stressed me out, like I'm like forever thankful that she was my teacher. Like honestly, like looking at it now, like I love her as a teacher. Like that's what I needed. Like that's the stability. And like I remember I was like, I'm doing all this work, like I want to make her proud.
Yeah.
And like I passed my A-push exam, so I was like,
and like, was that just like the coolest thing
it was
ever?
such a relief, because I'm like, all like the hours that I stood up at night just to finish her work, like it paid off. And like I'm so thankful for that, because like her teaching like style, like that's why I got a 3.
Yeah.
It's because like she literally like pushed us, and she's like, she wants the best.
First of all, Miss Mtenga, if you're gonna watch this, I don't hate you at all. I'm actually grateful, because first of all, history was never my thing. Like just in general, I never understand history. Like I'm just like, what do we need to learn about history? Like I know we grew up in this like United States or whatever, but still like there's no, I was like, but like I don't understand it. And I'm actually grateful, because I actually learned something in her class. Like
What'd you learn? What'd you learn?
Oh, what did I learn?
Yeah.
Okay, I learned.
What's a favorite thing that you learned? What's the chuckling over here?
You guys laughing at me.
You have your patitas out.
I'm wearing Crocs. Is that really weird to have your feet out?
No,
okay.
it's just silly.
It's just silly. Okay. Sorry.
No, it is sometimes weird though.
It's all in good.
You went to Harvard and you worked there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. How is that possible? Like
That's what believe it or not, that's what a lot of students.
And you're not the first one, you're like the second one?
Second, yeah, because I replaced someone who, yeah. Well, what about it?
Like there, why there? Yeah.
I'll have you know, I loved the job. There was something a lot more. I would have rather been a teacher at your school than like a private, rich, elite school that sends people to Harvard. I feel like there's a lot more that I felt like I could do as a teacher. Well, in some ways there was less that I could do as a teacher because a lot of students would be sleeping. But there was more in the sense that like it felt a little bit more like a first opportunity. It was the first economics class for a lot of the students. And so I felt like I had a little bit more, honestly, like power or autonomy to be able to make some kind of a difference. But the pay is bad.
Oh, I know.
One of the things I loved about this profession and this career path is you can be proud of it. It's not a given, especially when you're younger, that you're going to feel proud of the work that you're doing. So yes, there are so many costs of being a teacher, financial and otherwise, but there is something to be said about doing something, even if it's hard, even when it's hard, and just feeling proud of the impact that you have. Even if you don't necessarily feel that impact on the day-to-day, and even when you want to fucking rip your hair out, I feel proud that I have given, I guess, over a year and a half, maybe, yeah, like 150 students their first economics lesson, their first ignition. Oh, RIP. Okay. Igniting of a flame of some interest. I bumped into a student when I was with my partner in Echo Park, and besides the initial awkwardness, she was like, Mom, like, this is the teacher who got me first interested in investing, which, sorry, RIP capitalism. But just stuff like that. Like, in a world where I feel like it's harder to know, disconnected, I guess. It's harder to know if what I'm doing anything. It's nice to know that there are still jobs like teaching where you can't not look in the mirror and be like, I did something. And I think that that sense of purpose is what a lot of us are missing in our careers and in our jobs right now. When I told my assistant principal that I was leaving the job and that I wasn't returning, I was crying I was just so grateful. I had told her I came to this job, or this job came to me when I was in a really, really hard time in my life. And I was so confused about my purpose and who I was and what I wanted. And I took a big risk, a big chance doing this thing. And it has changed my life forever. It has gotten me back on my feet. I remember looking back and being in such a desperate place in my life and thinking, I will do anything if it means I get to be with people and I get to not be lonely. And that is exactly what I got from it. And I'm so grateful for it. And I think there's a part of it, a sprinkle of it in everything that I do, no matter what it is, including this podcast. But I think emotional, gratifying moments like that, those are the things that I'm going to remember. So I don't know if this was propaganda for if you're feeling like you don't have a purpose, go be a teacher. I'm by no means saying that. But I guess maybe if you're feeling isolated or disconnected, whether that's in your job or elsewhere, know that there is hope. There is hope. Would love to hear your thoughts. Love to be in touch. Thank you so much for listening. And I'll see you next time for our regularly scheduled programming. Our next episode is a bit of a follow-up to our last one. And the one before that, we were talking about feeling ugly, being single. Next, we're going to move on to being in a relationship and what it takes and the scariness of it and the vulnerability and what makes for a good relationship and all these things. And I asked people who are in a relationship, who are not, if they had any advice to give for people who have never been in a relationship, who want a relationship, who are in a relationship. And so I'm really excited for that one. Have hope, truthies. Love you. Yeah, why
That's crazy.
Socks without socks that crazy?
'Cause
I
it's
did that. That's
slippery.
exactly what they all dragged me.
It's just not. It's not
You're supposed
right.
to wear them barefoot.
No, but it feels like. Don't you sweat on them? That's my
Yeah,
question.
They evaporate because they're Crocs.
Okay.